Hello everyone, my name is Steve. Welcome to Grandpa Does AI. Recently my mother passed away and she left me a simple task. And when I tried to perform that task, it actually led to the day that Gemini Pro helped me recover $17,593 that the family didn't even know we were owed. Today's video is different and I'm on camera because the subject is deeply personal and I believe many people will be able to relate to it, and eventually we're all going to have to go through it. And because what I found along the way is honestly heartbreaking, because so many people get taken advantage of or exploited or simply give up because of stonewalling. Let me tell you my story. So in 2018, my wife and I decided we were going to relocate out of Nebraska to Florida. I'm an only child, so I knew if I moved away, my mom would be alone and she was starting to become elderly. So I invited her to move with us, which she accepted. So she moved to Florida with us. So one thing I didn't fully understand is that my mom had prepaid for a funeral service and a cemetery service with the plot back in Nebraska. Now, I was aware she had made arrangements, but I had absolutely no idea how much money was involved. Now, generally, when somebody passes away after moving away, they would choose to be shipped back for that service and everything else. But my mom chose to stay in Florida and not go back to Nebraska. She didn't want to be laid to rest in a place away from her only son and his wife. So she chose to stay in Florida with us. Now, she thought all along the money that she had prepaid was non-refundable. But when she decided to stay in Florida, she really figured that money was completely lost and there was just nothing she could do about it. And I didn't question it myself because I don't know anything about those contracts and I don't know what she was told. So because she thought that money was lost, she wanted me to call the cemetery after she passed and tell them to put the date of death on the plaque on her plot. She thought if she paid for it, she might as well at least have her date of death on the plaque that she paid for. So when I was emotionally strong enough to do it, I called the cemetery back in Nebraska, talked to a secretary, told her exactly what I was trying to have done. I just wanted to have my mom's date of death put on a plaque that was already on a plot that she had paid for. And the woman transferred me to somebody that was supposed to be able to help me. That person didn't answer, so I left a voicemail and waited for a callback. Well, I never got it. So about 3 days later, I called again. Same thing, got transferred, left a voicemail, never got a callback. Now, needless to say, at this point, I'm getting pretty uncomfortable with this situation. So I called again, left another voicemail, and then I did get a callback. So I explained the situation. I explained my mom did not want to be returned to Nebraska and that she just wanted to have her date of death put on the plaque that she had already paid for and was on her plot. And he said, well, that'll be some more money. I believe it was around $600. And I said, okay, but my mom told me that everything was prepaid. And he goes, well, no, that's not prepaid in the contract. It'll be more money. And I go, well, what about all the money she prepaid for the services she's never going to get? She paid for a full funeral service. She paid for a full showing. She paid for a full cemetery service, everything. Those were all services that will never be rendered. What about that? He just said that if I want the date of death on the plaque, I need to send more money, and he was willing to share how I could send more money. But he really didn't have an interest in discussing what was in the contract about services that are not rendered. Now, I had no idea what was in these contracts, but at this point, I was furious. So I said, I'm going to go look through my mom's paperwork and see if I can find these contracts before I go any further. So what I thought was going to be a quick task has now made me highly suspicious, so suspicious that I'm going to go find these contracts and read them myself because he clearly saw what was in the contracts, but he didn't want me to know. And so I went and dug through my mom's paperwork and I found two contracts, one for the cemetery and one for the funeral home. And when I saw the dollar figures involved, I was stunned. These contracts totaled over $16,000, and that was back in 2005, all for services that will never be rendered. Also, assuming that my mom wasn't specifically told that these contracts were non-refundable, it wouldn't be hard to come to that conclusion based on the front page. And although I'm sure they went over the buyer's right to cancel only in the first 3 days, I highly doubt they went over the fine print on the back of the contract. There's something deeply wrong about a situation where a business knows a customer relocated and has passed away, knows her remains will never be returned to their facility, and doesn't once say, oh, by the way, you may be entitled to a refund, when a refund is in the contract. That's not an oversight, that's a choice. So I made a choice too. I don't have a legal background, but it was pretty obvious to me I was either dealing with somebody that was incompetent or worse. Additionally, I knew it wasn't realistic for me to go back to Nebraska and try to have a legal battle with this company because the amount of money involved wouldn't cover the legal fees, the travel, and the lodging. And of course, they knew that too. So I did what I always do. Whenever I have a situation I'm not sure about or it's challenging and I don't know anything about the topic, I have a motto that I tend to follow, and that is, when in doubt, use AI to help you figure it out. So I took photos of the contracts that my mom had signed, both the front and back pages, and I uploaded them to Gemini Pro, and I asked Gemini Pro a simple question. Are these contracts cancelable? But I also gave Gemini Pro context of what the situation was in case there's specific terms and conditions that allow things to be cancelable that otherwise wouldn't be. I'll go into that in detail next. What I'm about to show you will work for any contract. First thing we need to do is upload the files that compose of the contract. Now, I have to do this in a slightly different way so I don't inadvertently violate YouTube's terms of service by exposing the company. So we'll go ahead and upload the contract so you can see how you upload it. You just use the plus symbol and then it'll take you to your file system where you would choose which files you want to upload. Then you would, where it says Ask Gemini, you would actually type the prompt. And in this case, the prompt I'm using is right down here where it says the user. I had to recreate a previous chat so that it eliminated the company name. So again, I don't violate a terms of service. So here's what I'm asking it. I'm saying, here's the contract. My mom had relocated. Is this contract cancelable? And if so, what steps do I need to follow to cancel it? And it is. It says, yes, the contract is cancelable. So here's the conditions or how you would do it. It's listed in paragraph 11 in the fine print and on the rear of the contract. And here's how it determines the partial refund. In other words, you're not going to get a full refund. They're going to keep 15% of it. And then there's other fees and penalties and liquidation damages. And it's taking a complicated contract and translating it into easy to read language for us non-attorneys. Then it gets into the steps on how you would cancel the contract. So as you can see, it literally gives you step-by-step instructions on how you navigate this. Now, when it was talking about what I'm going to need to do in terms of her estate, that raised a red flag to me because my mom didn't have an estate. We didn't see a need for one because we had already transferred all of her assets before she passed. So, and we were completely unaware of this situation. So I asked, well, she didn't have an estate because all of the assets were already transferred. Is there any way to bypass the estate probate situation? And it said, yeah, there is. This is where I found out about the affidavit that allowed me to circumvent the estate/probate process. And these are the conditions that are required in Nebraska for that to work. Again, without AI, how would I know this? There's just no way if I didn't hire an attorney. And so here's the steps to use this small estate affidavit. And it's pointing out that once you've provided this, the company really, they can't ignore it anymore. Then I asked the same thing on the second contract, and that's it. So to be clear about what Gemini Pro helped me accomplish, It identified that the two prepaid contracts, valued at $17,593, were cancelable, and that I also had every right to pursue a refund for prepaid services that were never rendered. It gave me the exact steps on how to cancel them, literally step by step, and it solved a second problem I didn't even know I had, and that was how was I going to deal with the check issuance on my mother's behalf. It identified that there is an affidavit process for small estates that allows you to circumvent the estate process or go through probate. 3 problems, 3 solutions, all from a tool that literally is a fraction of the cost of what any attorney would have charged me to give me the same advice. I'm not an attorney, and what I'm presenting in this video isn't intended to be legal advice. Your individual circumstances will be different, as will the conditions in the contracts. But what I am is somebody that used AI to help me navigate a situation that I had absolutely no idea what to do with. I was dealing with a contract from another state with a font size of about 1, so I couldn't even see it. And I had to navigate that while I was under a lot of emotional stress because my mom had just passed away. Gemini gave me a starting point. It gave me a spot that allowed me to, 1, not only know where I stand, but know what the expected outcome should be and every question to ask along the way. And that made all the difference. If you've ever faced something similar and you feel you need professional advice, please seek out a professional. But knowing where to start, knowing what questions to even ask, AI can certainly help with that. It can give you a roadmap to follow. This is exactly why I started Grandpa Does AI. I wanted to show people that AI can be used for real problems in our real daily lives and help us navigate things that we simply wouldn't know how to navigate otherwise. I've worked in IT for 36 years. I understand mainframes. I understand relational databases. I do not understand estate laws, funeral home contracts, and probate, but I didn't need to. I needed a tool that could help me understand complicated things that I have no background in, and Gemini Pro certainly helped me with that. My mom believed that the money she prepaid was lost. She genuinely believed that money was non-refundable. But because of AI, we were able to recover $17,593 that we didn't even know we were owed. As I was going through this experience, it never occurred to me that I would be making a video about it to post on YouTube. And my motivation for doing so is the conversation I had with the lady that handled my notarizations for this whole process at my bank. I saw her on 2 different occasions, and the first time I explained the situation because she wanted to know what we were notarizing and what the affidavit was for. So I explained the situation to her, and she was stunned, but she didn't go into any detail at that time. When I went back, it was probably 2 weeks later for another notary, I got the same lady, and she told me that what I had discussed with her really hit home because she was in the exact same situation. Her and her husband had also done the same thing before relocating to where I live now. And she was now also pursuing canceling those contracts because prior to talking to me, she didn't know it was possible. So then I started to wonder how many other people out there simply don't know this information because it isn't something that we typically talk about in our culture. So if this video helps a single other person, then it's worth putting it out there in public. I hope it helps somebody. The total process took about 7 weeks, and I was never able to have an actual conversation about the cancellation process with the company. I was told repeatedly that there would be a call with the manager, but that call never happened. And after being told several times that they were going to have a call and then the call never occurred, it was obvious to me that that call was never going to happen. So I handled everything in emails to the manager directly. Additionally, my mom had multiple contracts with this company going back decades. My family was buried there. I was told there were 2 open contracts and given their contract numbers, but my mom's copies of those contracts did not have contract numbers on them, so I wasn't able to know definitively which contracts we was actually dealing with, and they would not tell me. Even after they had my affidavit showing that I was the sole heir and was legally representing my mother, they would not tell me. The amount we received back was much higher than I expected, but money held in escrow earns interest, so I presume that is why the dollar amount was higher than I thought it would be. I really have no idea because I was never given the value of the contracts in the first place. If you've made it this far in my video and you find it interesting, I hope you'll like and subscribe. And if you've ever used AI to navigate a difficult problem in your own life, please tell me about it in the comments. I would love to hear it. I truly believe that AI is going to be a tremendous benefit in our lives if we're willing to use it. I hope you've enjoyed today's learning adventure, and I hope to see you around for the next one.